Hello and welcome. And today we're going to be looking into the world of sound, which is sound healing and sound therapy. And many of you may have heard about it. And I think it's probably just in recent years, it's become more prevalent and more popular. And I thought it'd be a great idea for us to really get to understand what this new therapy is about. And so today we've invited Farzana Ali, who, in fact, some of you may have seen her because, Farzana, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today.
Because I know that you've been on ITV's This Morning, and you've also appeared in numerous publications. So I think you're definitely, I was going to say, a recognisable face for many people in this area. And also what we're going to be talking about is a new book that you've got out. And what I think is really interesting is that with sound therapy, I think many people might say, oh, it's a bit woo-woo. You know, it's just like, it's not there. And what I really like about your book, and what we've discussed as well previously, is looking at things that are clinical evidence. There's some real scientific, and I think your book is one of the first ones to actually make that very clear in your book. So at talkhealth, as you all know, what we try to do is bring as much clinical evidence and proof that these various techniques really do have some great benefits for people. So today what we're going to do is have a look at what sound therapy is. We were going to do some live demonstrations, but having had a bit of a practice, I think it would be fair to say, I think you'd say as well, for some of that, it perhaps didn't, the sounds that came out from our recording didn't really do justice to what one would hear in a real life setting. So we're going to put some clips out there for people to actually hear it themselves rather than us hearing a noise and all of those things. So Farzana, please, welcome, as I said, and please give us a little bit of background, because I think your background sort of sets the scene very well as to how you became into or got into sound therapy.
Well, I guess for me, it was a case of I had a very corporate job, very stressed out, very, always on the go, always on the run, was juggling a lot, was always finding it really difficult to switch off that monkey mind. And I really hated traditional meditation. I really disliked it. I couldn't switch off, and I really struggled with it. And I don't think that's something that's actually quite unusual for people to struggle with that type of meditation. I think especially when you have so much and you're juggling so much. And I remember going to a crystal sound bath, and I was probably, I wouldn't say I was skeptical, but I was just like, okay, let's see what happens. And after that first session, I just couldn't believe how rested I felt. I couldn't believe that I didn't have to do anything. I just had to lie down. And by the end of the session, I just felt like I'd woken up from like an 8-hour nap. I was so refreshed. I just felt really rested. My mind had gone into some kind of trance. Obviously, I now have the language and the understanding, but at the time I just was like, I couldn't understand what had happened to me. But I knew I wasn't quite asleep, but I definitely wasn't awake. And so it was just that kind of sparked that curiosity for me. So I went back, tried it a few more times, and eventually I guess it just became part of my life. And then I went back to university, studied it, and I guess here I am today.
So, I mean, for a lot of people, they're going, well, what is it? What if I go to a sound therapist? What are they going to do to me? What is the experience?
So sound healing, sound therapy, any type of sonic meditation is assisted meditation. You're using sound as a container, as a tool to help you get to that place of rest. So essentially it's a passive treatment. So you don't actively, when a client comes to me, they don't actively have to do anything. Their work is done by the time they walk in through the door. The rest is up to your practitioner. And I guess in a few words, I would say that sound healing, sound therapy is a holistic treatment that uses sound and frequency and vibration to take you to a place of deep rest, of deep relaxation, of a place where you can let go.
And I think, we said previously, it's a place that makes people feel safe because they're not being asked to do anything.
Yeah, I think more than feeling safe, it's the overwhelm. And, when you are struggling with anxiety or stress and you're juggling a lot, being asked to do something else, while it, of course, is going to help you, but being asked to undertake another task can be daunting, can make the feelings of overwhelm, can compound that feeling even more so. And the wonderful thing about sound healing is you turn up and you just give yourself over, you let someone else take care of you. And that is something I feel like we don't do enough in our communities. We don't do it enough where we allow people to take care of us. Even if I guess you go on holiday, or you let your partner cook for you, or you let your kids cook for you, or whatever it is. Sometimes we say we're so full of gratitude, we're thanking people, we feel guilty, we've caused an inconvenience, and actually society should be made of looking after each other more. And there's something really wonderful about sound healing, is that you can just give yourself over, you can really allow someone to take care of you, and you can go into a place of rest without you having to learn anything, without you having to train yourself in any way. You just give yourself over, and the practitioner, like I say, does all the hard work for you.
So is it one of those, or I suppose it probably depends from practitioner or whatever, is it a group therapy type of thing, or is it a one-to-one?
So you can do it in two ways. So sound healing, which is using different instruments in a therapeutic way to induce that state of calm and relaxation. That can be done in a group setting as well as a one-to-one setting. Sound therapy, as I explain in the book, is a little bit different in that you're combining the practice of the instruments and the sound with a reflective practice. So there's a little bit of talking involved in a sound therapy session. It's not psychotherapy, mind you, but you speak in an abstract way, and then your practitioner really works on you depending on where they feel that you're holding your tension, where they feel you're holding your anxiety. So it's much more of a bespoke session, much more of a bespoke treatment. And it's great for if you're tackling something that's a little bit more advanced than just general anxiety. It's great for tackling feelings of self-doubt, inadequacy, and just kind of allowing yourself to have a little bit of a one-to-one I guess one-to-one kind of healing. So that happens definitely, very much in a one-to-one setting. In the group sessions, in the group setting, it's much more about overall relaxation, overall rest. So of course you'll get the benefits of feeling, less anxious, less stressed out, but it's not as honed into you personally.
And
because I guess, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, is it I know it sounds daft, but it's sort of one of those things that if you don't really know what to expect, it's that always that new person at a school. What do? Do you sit down? Do you lie down? What do you wear different clothes? I don't know.
No. Firstly, there are no dumb questions, there are no daft questions, because if you don't know, you don't know. Firstly, even though it's called the sessions, we call them sound baths. So even though they're called sound bath, there's no water involved. You don't need to be in your swimsuit. It's a completely dry process. I guess the reason we call it a bath is because we're saying that the sounds are washing over you, so you're kind of like enveloped in the sound. What usually happens is, in a group setting, for example, you'd come in, you'd lie down on cushions or a yoga mat, you're covered with a blanket, you've got an eye mask, and you're basically wrapped up, you're cocooned, you're resting, you're lying down. Of course, if someone wants to sit up, or if they're pregnant, they can have extra pillows and kind of are positioned in a certain way. But the aim is to get your body in a in a position of rest, so you're comfortable. The most important thing is that you're as comfortable as possible, so that there's no kind of physical restriction to you accessing that place of deep, like, mental and emotional rest. For one-to-one sessions, you'd probably be on a therapy bed. So for a one-to-one session, one of the instruments I use are Himalayan bowls. They're the kind of metallic metal bowls. And, you know, as I walk around the person, it's easier if they're obviously on a therapy bed. You can work above them directly. You can work, at some points, you might even put the bowls on the body. So a therapy bed just allows for like more ease in that situation. But most group sessions will be done where you're just lying on a yoga mat or some cushions on the floor.
And, you know, do you, I mean, I presume that you do different ones every time, but do you ask your audience? I mean, obviously one-to-one, it's easier to maybe ask maybe what areas of concern there are. So do you get a general feeling of what the group might feel like, and then you decide what you're going to give them?
So you don't really ask specifically if in a group session how everyone's feeling, but I guess it's almost instinctual. You can tell if people have come, you know, if they're walking into the room and they're feeling a bit frantic, or the energy is a bit nervous, or there's kind of a little bit of anxiety there. Collectively, you can kind of feel that. But of course, like say of a weekend, people might come in a little bit slower. They might come in a bit more kind of peacefully. So the sessions, even if you're using the same instruments on the same day, they will be very, very different depending on the crowd that comes in.
And I suppose, you know, what we haven't actually said, I'll just say we've just launched in it because I just think it sounds so exciting and I'm really keen to have a go. What we haven't explained is actually, why do people go to sound therapy? What are the benefits? So I think, and I know that the areas that you covered are anything from stress and anxiety to pain management. So if you could just explain, you know, the types of things that sound therapy can help with, that would be really, really great.
Yeah, so there's a you know, a variety of different benefits that you get from sound healing. I guess the main one that kind of is the foundation of the rest is that you feel less anxious and less stressed out. So the way sound healing and sound therapy work is by reducing your stress hormones. And they do this by activating your parasympathetic nervous system. So that is your rest and digest. That is when your body feels safe. It's the opposite of the more commonly known fight or flight response. So your breath rate slows down, your brain waves slow down, your heart rate slows down. And so it's telling your body that you're safe, that it's okay for you to rest, it's okay for you to down tools, as it were. And so that's the main foundation. And I think from that, of course, you know, it can help you with, the more rested you are, the more mentally refreshed you feel, the more emotionally you know, rested you are. So everything kind of comes off the back of that. My main clients probably come to see me because they're stressed out. You know, the lifestyle that we kind of live at the moment, it's very much go, go, go. It's constantly feeling that you have to do more, achieve more, buy more, gain more. And so we're all of us are constantly in a state of stress, actually. And so it's that chronic stress that is the main ailment, I guess, that I see with people.
And I think it's the you know, one of the things that we've said previously as well is that you said that people do go to sleep, because I'm sure that I'd be that candidate and would fall asleep. And I suppose that actually that gives them that opportunity just to drift into sleep, which I'm sure it's a lovely feeling of that drifting into sleep because you feel warm and secure.
Yeah. So, you know, the main, you know, I've just said about kind of it slows down your brain waves. So the main thing that it does, so at the moment we're speaking, we're in a beta dominant brainwave state. We're talking, we're engaged, you're thinking about your next question. I'm thinking of things that I've learned or things that I know, and I'm kind of compiling all of that and I'm telling you. And that's great. This is what the state that we need to be in. If we are chronically in that beta dominant state, that's where the anxiety comes in. That's where the stress comes in. And we need time to, you know, in the day, like almost like a sound wave, like an actual ocean wave. We need time during the day where we're not in that beta dominant state, where we're in that alpha dominant state, which is a slower brainwave where we are alert and awake, but we're not consciously thinking. So that's when you, like, you know, if you're in the shower, for example, you're washing your hair, you're alert, you're awake, but you don't have to think about the act of washing your hair. Your brain kind of takes over, you're on autopilot. These days we have very little time in that slightly autopilot brainwave state. We're always connected. You know, when was the last time, if you were on a train, for example, that you just looked out of the window? Most of us are probably head down, looking at our phone, consuming more, thinking more, replying to emails. So you're constantly alert, you're constantly on. What sound meditation does is that it allows you to slip into those slower brainwave states. And so, you know, when you're in the alpha dominant state, you're resting, you're rested. And then it also takes you into theta dominant state. Now that's the one before deep sleep. This is the one where dreaming happens, where if you're in a trance, that's the state you're in. And in that state, you know, our brain resets its mineral levels, our sodium and potassium levels. So that's why we feel refreshed after a sound bath. It's the place where you can organize your thoughts, emotions, feelings. Now, that is, like I say, it's very close to the next brainwave state, which is delta. That's your deep sleep. So if I've taken you all the way to theta, it's very easy for you to fall into deep sleep. Now, I don't mind if people fall asleep in sessions. And, you know, if there's lots of ways we can feel rested. But if our primary need is that we need to be physically rested, if our primary want is that we're depleted in physical rest, then we cannot achieve emotional rest or mental rest. So if you've come to see me and you've fallen asleep, that's okay. If your body needs physical rest more in that moment than anything else, then that's okay. Also, physical rest, you know, like I say, it trumps the others, because you can't work on the others until you're adequately physically rested. But sleep also signifies safety. If you're falling asleep in my presence with my instruments, that's okay. If that's what your body needs, you know, a lot of clients I've seen, you know, who suffer with insomnia or, you know, kind of sleep issues, a lot of the time, these people don't feel comfortable at home, don't feel safe at home. They can't fully let go. You know, that's what's kind of also keeping them from fully resting. So if in that moment you've fallen asleep, it's absolutely fine. You're still getting the benefit. When you're in an in-person session, the vibrations from the instruments are still going through you. We don't stop playing just because everyone's asleep. We carry on. So it's okay if you fall asleep, and, you know, don't feel guilty for it.
And I suppose this is kind of like an obtuse question in many ways. How does it make the yourself, the practitioner, while you're doing it,
Yeah.
do you sort of embody it as well?
So it's weird because it's like two things can happen. So, you know, if I'm playing, for example, the crystal bowls, I'm thinking about the next set of notes, or the kind of the intervals. So that's when you play two notes together to create a feeling, an emotional kind of like feeling. So I'm thinking about that. Also, I'm watching everybody. I'm looking at all the clients to make sure that they're okay, that no one is fidgeting too much or looks uncomfortable or is not receiving the sound. Or, you know, a lot of people cry in sessions. So I'm kind of concentrating in that way, so it doesn't quite, you know, put me into a trance as well. But occasionally, because my brain is obviously wired the same, occasionally you'll have a very small group, or there'll be a lot of my regulars will come in, and then, you know, there's been times when I've kind of been like, oh, okay, like, oh, you know, wake up, Farzana. Yeah, where you start to kind of go a little bit. I guess the most difficult instrument would probably be the drum. So all of this type of sound healing works by a process that we called sympathetic resonance and entrainment. And it's basically when the vibrations of one thing match up to the vibrations of something else. So I'm using therapeutic grade instruments, and they are releasing a frequency, and your brain is kind of latching on to that, and it's syncing up. This is what slows down your brain waves. Slowing down your brain waves obviously then slows down your heart rate and your breath rate and everything else like that. When you're using the drum, because it's quite rhythmic as well, you know, of the sheer nature of the instrument, it's really hard not to kind of fall into a trance yourself. So that one's probably the trickiest bit of kit I have. But you know, as a practitioner, I go and see other sound therapists. I like to receive sound as well, because it's a very different way of experiencing it. Like I say, if I'm concentrating, making sure everyone's okay, I can't fully let myself go. So I'll go and see a practitioner. I'll lie down. I'll let them, you know, wrap me in a blanket and receive as well.
I mean, it sounds like you take people on a journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. From the moment they come in, it's giving the responsibility they have, their day, their life, their stresses, their worries, the things that are kind of keeping them up and alert. You give that over. And so then it's a case of, you know, listen to my voice, listen to my instruments, and just let me take you on, like you say, this sonic journey of relaxation.
And is it something, so, you know, you might find that you go once a week, but is it something that you recommend to people or can they do it at home as well?
So at home, you know, there's recordings, and actually with my book, I've included a free digital sound bath for everybody, because I just was like, when I was talking to the publishing house, I was like, there's no way I can talk about all these gorgeous benefits of sound healing and then not give the reader some sound healing to try at home. And, you know, the book is also full of other tips and modalities and ways that you can utilize sound at home to get you to that place of deep rest. When you're listening to an audio file at home, it can be, research shows that it can be much more of an deeper introspective experience. Whereas I would say in person, because you're physically feeling the vibrations too, it's much more of a somatic practice. So I see clients shaking or twitching, or they're sighing quite heavily because, you know, the vibrations are going through them.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. And I think it's I think from, you know, what you've said, it's one of those therapies. It sounds like you need to go and try it to see if it's for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely,
And,
absolutely.
and
I
finding the right therapy, or finding a therapist as well that sort of gets, you just feel that kind of gets your rhythm.
Yeah, absolutely. Also trying out different instruments, because one person might really resonate with the Himalayan bowl, another person might want something a little bit more, I guess, dramatic. Maybe that's not the right word, but a bit more kind of forceful, which would be the gong. So you definitely need to try out different instruments, and the energy of your practitioner will also be something that you either resonate with or you don't. So I would say I'm probably quite a soft gong player, for example. So the way I play the gong is very much like a slow kind of slow wave, whereas some people might want, you know, some crashing ocean kind of energy. So it depends, you know. And so try out different practitioners, see who you resonate with, see who you respond to, and try out different instruments. Because, you know, the Himalayan bowls, for example, the metal ones, you know, we call them the sonic cuddle of the sound therapy world. You know, it's a very, you know, they create a very rich, warm, soft sound, whereas, like I say, the gong can be a little bit more lively. So try out different things.
And I think, to me, what hooked me was when you said that how your first experience of it, you came away thinking, what on earth has happened? You know, and you could have been under it for 10 minutes, or, as you said, you know, an
Yeah.
hour, 2 hours, you just lost all. And I think to be able to experience something like that is quite different and has quite a profound effect on people.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think when I first kind of trained and I was telling people about sound healing, I think the accusation of it being a bit woo-woo and, you know, like, oh, does it really work? You know, how can sound just do this? But actually, we use sound and we use music to change our mood all the time. We just don't frame it in a therapeutic way. So if you've ever put on, you know, uplifting music, you know, like before you go on a run, if you ever run a bit faster at the gym because you've got, you know, a song that's really, you know, riling you up, it's really encouraging you, it's really, you know, boosting your endorphins, you've already used it. If you've, you know, if you listen to sad music when you're feeling a little bit kind of sad about something and it's made you cry, it's helping you release. So we already do that, and we know that sound has a profound impact on us. You know, if you're watching Jaws, for example, you know, that classic,
you know
that yeah, you know that something is coming, something is in the water. Now if you were to replace that, you know, if you, that same scene, and you were to replace the music with, I don't know, the Peppa Pig theme song, your reaction immediately is going to be very different, even though the graphic and the visuals are the same. So we intrinsically know and use sound in this way. It's just that we never consciously think about it, and we consciously don't acknowledge that that's what's happening. But when you kind of explain it to people in that way, and they're like, oh yes, I do that actually, or, you know, I do put on a song to get me ready for a night out because I know it's my favorite track, and it's gonna really kind of boost my mood. And so when me and all my girlfriends are getting ready together, we're really excited, it builds up the anticipation. So, you know, when you say it like that, people are like, oh yes, I do that. And then you're like, so all we're doing is taking that and we're expanding it, and we're kind of taking you deeper, because by not using music, we're using, I guess, deconstructed music. We're using sounds and notes to help amplify those feelings.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. By saying to people, you do it already subconsciously, and you know, then the penny starts dropping, and they say, and now we're doing it in a very constructed. I know you said it was deconstructed, but it's constructed in the sense we're deliberately taking you down now along that journey for relaxation and release and all of those things. And I think it's clear that your whole body takes that on, you know, from your heartbeat could be, you could just change the sound and your heartbeat goes up to going down again and moving all around. So anyway, thank you so much. That is really so interesting. And what we'll do, because with the article that we produce along with this, we'll put some of the sound bites for people to hear what it sounds like, as we said earlier. I think that would be really, really beneficial. So, Farzana, thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure, my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.